I want to talk about three science presentations that I attended. One is Ferens Krausz from the Max Planck Institute in Germany. He talked about Attosecond Physics. He won the Nobel Prize together with other physicists about this new technology, and in particular about also what kind of applications this new technology brings. It's the ability to flash lasers at a rate that is faster than a femtosecond, which is the level just before attoseconds. An attosecond is a billionth of a second. So the idea to be able to flash very fast is like in photography. If you can flash very fast, you can, for example, take a picture of a bullet flying, right? You can capture that bullet flying. And now imagine you do the same thing with an electron. Very interesting talk. He talked about, spatial versus temporal resolution. He talked about what does it mean to be able to see very fine-grained details. Does that mean you can learn stuff? And the answer is yes, you can, for sure. Kathy Galloway, MIT, she is programming cells. So you have a native, natural cell mechanism, and you bring in an synthetic circuit that reprograms the cell or suppresses certain things. Very difficult to do, very stochastic, very random. She talks about that in one of her papers, and in my opinion, very, very interesting, exciting actually. And then Dr. Wen Song, that to me was really the highlight of the day actually. Now she is an environmental engineering person at UT Austin, and her job is her work is in particular in analyzing molecular structures of rock, finding ways to understand the porosity of rock, and then design methods to extract. In this particular case, she's talking about the extraction of rare earth metals from coal ash. And to me, very, very interesting. She's at Austin working with companies like Tesla and other renewable companies, and it just shows how deep this renewable industry is going. Like we're not just talking about electric cars here and superchargers. Yes, of course, that's something that we customers face every day, so we talk about it. But let's say a company like Tesla, or it's not just Tesla, but clearly Tesla has launched this revolution. They're working on extracting rare earth metals from coal ash. I mean, who thinks about these things? It's a beautiful combination of science and technology, and really useful technology, because we need rare earth metals for magnets, permanent magnets, cell phones. I mean, rare earth metals enable a lot of things that the electronics industry relies upon. And it's one of those, hypocrite solutions that, states like California have brought upon themselves, which is they had the largest rare earth metal mines in the world. They closed it because of environmental concerns. And now we're buying all the metals from China, which, lo and behold, is much, much worse environmentally. This is not even on podcast. It's April 23rd, 2024. This is Delco. For the day, the fund is up 1.9%. The market's up 1.2%. For the year, we are down 31.3%. The market's up 6.2%. We're outperforming by 37.5%. Just before I go, Tesla has announced earnings. There was the call. I haven't really worked much on it. Stock's up about 14% after hours, which is, I think, driven by probably a lack of really bad news, some good news, and some clarification on AI and the new model and the new vehicle platform that Tesla is launching. I think overall, what's happening at Tesla is that Elon Musk's coming back as a CEO to fix the company. The company has become too lax, too unorganized, too error-prone. And these are all good things, and hopefully this can continue. Now let's talk about the three science presentations. They're all in the context of events. Some of them were a while ago, some of them are this week, so we're talking sort of in the last 2 weeks of April here. Ferenc Krausz, Max Planck Institute. So attosecond physics. What is attosecond physics? It's the ability to flash lasers at a rate, at a pulse, which is faster than previously possible. Attosecond is a billionth of a second. What you can do with that is you can capture the dynamics of an electron. What you can also do with that is you can capture certain temporal changes or dynamics of, for example, of cells. You can also capture, you can create much faster electronic switches, because with this type of ability to flash laser pulses at a speed faster than a femtosecond, you can create much higher frequency of computer switches. So in other words, you could have, instead of a 4, 5, 10 gigahertz computer, you could have a megahertz computer, things like that. Now that opens up questions of power consumption. It opens up questions of materials that can handle that kind of speed and that kind of transactional velocity. But overall, this is a beautiful example of how new science and technology interact. Ferens was talking about applications. One is, again, is the faster switching of computers. And then the other is in the medical field. He was talking about detecting early diseases, in particular cancer. Now, the way that works is you can have a molecular fingerprint of your blood using these types of fast laser pulses. And the reason you can get that is because now you have much finer grain. This is like think of it like this is like a very, very high resolution microscope, but it's temporal resolution. It's not only spatial resolution. So you can see the dynamics of how cells interact with each other. And from that, you can get a sort of a molecular fingerprint that then extrapolates, and you can monitor, let's say if you had one person coming up every year with the blood test, and then things start changing with the appropriate machine learning algorithms, you could potentially detect diseases very early. So you could have, if you had enough data about how the cell structure and the cell dynamics change based on changes in the morphology of the body, you could potentially detect early cancer. And this is a really exciting area. It's relatively low cost because you're not doing any fancy bioengineering, no biomarkers. It's pretty straightforward, and you're using physics, which means that you don't have to analyze the complex biology, translate it into some digital representation, and then use very complex software to analyze it. You can just look at it. You can literally just look at it, but in a very fine resolution, and hopefully learn a lot. The next presentation is Kathy Galloway. This is related in terms of healthcare. She's really exciting. I think to me, she's at MIT. She has her own lab. What she does is she reprograms real cells. So cell programming. Think about it this way. You have DNA, there's a code, and then there's a transcription from DNA to RNA and then protein. You could potentially, with a synthetic circuit, change the way the DNA programs into RNA, or you could change the way RNA programs into protein, or you could do both. That's her job. Now, this is incredibly messy. There's a lot of stochasticity here in terms of if you influence one thing, other things change. So they're really working on very basic, what they say, compact circuits that only influence one thing at a time. This is really the holy grail here. There's a couple of theoretical works that she's done in her paper presented. It's in the show notes. I think for me, what's most interesting is first the ability to program cells. Okay, that's super, super exciting. You could think of applications in healthcare, but also in, for example, in energy, in waste management, in food, lots and lots of potential applications here. So this is different than CRISPR, right? CRISPR is you go into the DNA and you edit the actual DNA. So you're rewriting the source code. With what Kathy's doing is you're influencing the way you're editing the source code in a sense that you're influencing the programming of the transcriptome. You're changing the transcriptome. So you're not changing the DNA, but you're changing the way the DNA transcribes into RNA and or RNA into protein. She lists some of the problems that need to be overcome. I think overall this is particularly interesting also from a sort of career perspective for people who are interested in going into science. It's a new science. It's very computationally intensive, so it encompasses ComSci, it encompasses biology, it encompasses machine learning. It has all these aspects. Last presentation I want to talk about is Dr. Wen Song, UT Austin. Her work is on microstructures of materials. In this particular presentation that she spoke about, we're talking about coal ash and the extraction of REEs, rare earth metals. What that means is that you have these rare earth metals, which are sort of the last couple of, if you take the periodic table, the last line where names most people have never heard of. The ability of rare earth metals to influence magnetism, electromagnetism, has been harnessed a long time ago by electronics. They're used in magnets, very important for electric motors, or for wind turbines where kinetic energy is turned into electric energy, or again in electric motors and electric vehicles when electric energy is turned into kinetic energy. So both ways you use rare earth metals. Now the problem with rare earth metals is that they're very difficult to extract. The Western mining industry has pretty much given up on them and exported the extraction to China. China is doing it in a very environmentally harmful way. What Dr. Song is trying to do is extract it from coal ash. Coal ash is abundantly available in the US and Europe, everywhere where coal is being produced. It's a byproduct. You burn the coal, you're left with the ash. The ash is being stored in places, so it's available. And what Dr. Song has done is she has studied the microstructure of the coal ash material to find out the fluid to fluid and fluid to solid dynamics that are present, and she's building models and then testing and in simulation or in real, and then finding out the best ways, designing methods to use acid or acid type materials to leach the rare earth metals out of the coal ash. Very high extraction percentages and very economic, according to her. It's possible to compete with Chinese materials. More importantly, it's available, so we can actually do it. So this is really a very interesting, in my opinion, unbelievably exciting new technology that will change the renewable industry. And it shows also how companies like Tesla are working on all kinds of fronts. This renewable energy revolution, it's not just about electric cars. As difficult as they are to succeed, and how we see how much struggling Tesla has to go through to replace the existing electric car with electric cars. But you have to think about the lithium mining. You have to think about rare earth mining. You have to think about all kinds of aspects of the value chain. This is one of them, and I think Dr. Song's technology really opens doors for at-scale extraction of rare earth metals, which is a problem. It's a problem because, again, the dependence on China and also the environmental impact. So to summarize, three science presentations: one is Krausz on Attosecond Physics, the development, the history of how it actually happened, and then the applications. So he went from the beginnings of Heisenberg and Einstein and quantum mechanics towards the ability to use quantum mechanical concepts to deliver very, very fast pulse lasers, and then the applications of that in electronics and healthcare. Kathy Galloway, using synthetic circuits to program organic cells, and then Dr. Wen Song using microstructure analysis, nano porosity analysis to design better methods, or to design methods to extract rare earth metals from coal ash. Thank you.